Facebook. I am live with Aaron Gordon at Aaron Gordon Construction, or you say AGC, I guess. Aaron's been a close friend of mine for a long time. He's also happens to be one of the best contractors in San Francisco. And I get a ton of questions from my clients and friends, especially because I used to be an interior designer. People are always wanting to pick my brain about construction. And I thought I'd bring in the real pro to answer some questions about what's been going on in construction. Prices and things have been changing a lot, and so I thought Aaron could jump on here with us and tell us some of the things that are happening. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for being with me today. So first things first, one of the things that I'm seeing out there is things are expensive. What's going on with prices?
Well, it's mostly a factor of labor and supply and demand. In terms of the labor market, there's a shortage of housing in San Francisco for your general working class. So people are commuting and it just creates a shortage. So the majority of the cost increases we're seeing is really around labor.
Got it. And is it true? I've read multiple times that the cost of construction has increased 30% per year for the last 3 years. Does that sound accurate?
That seems a little higher than I've seen, but it's substantial year to year, and it even surprises me year to year when we're doing estimates and we're looking back. It's somewhere between 15 and 30%, I would say. It's hard to say across the board, but we are seeing subcontractor pricing go up very, very quickly, and it hasn't stopped or slowed down until recently. I think it's leveled off a little bit, but I think it's going back up again because there's really no shortage of work in this area.
Got it. Is there a time, people ask me this about real estate, I'm just curious, is there a time that's like a more seasonal time to get a good price from a contractor?
Not really. I mean, there's a little slowdown around the holiday season. People don't really want to spend a lot of time getting into construction. So there's a little bit of a dip on smaller projects, right? A kitchen or bathroom type project, we'll see some seasonality. On bigger projects, it takes 2 years to get a permit, so people build as soon as the permit's done. That's usually the holdup in construction on larger projects.
Got it. And to set the context here, like we should probably say, there's a lot of different kinds of contractors out there. And in fact, you actually have 2 different companies to respond to that. Can you say a little bit more about that? 3.
I have 3 now. Yeah. So
I can't keep up with you, Aaron.
So I have Aaron Gordon Construction, which tends to specialize in bigger, more expensive remodels where,
What does that mean? Tell everybody what that is.
Maybe $1 million to $20 million. We like the bigger, more complicated projects. We do have a small projects division inside of AGC where we'll do smaller things, but it's usually, if it's the right fit or working with an architect we work with or a designer that we want to support, that type of stuff. Also supporting our existing clients in smaller stuff. And then we have 415 remodel. Go ahead.
Wait, hold on. Question. Okay. So when you say 20 million, I just want to clarify. So let's say I was fortunate enough to sell a $20 million house. The 20 million you're talking about is after they own the house. That's what they're spending on construction, correct?
Correct. Or if it's a new build, right? If they buy land.
Okay. But you're probably not doing a ton of those every day.
No. We usually have one of those large projects at any given time. Currently, we have one going on now. It's 17 million. It's in a high rise, so it's an interior project in a high rise.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. But okay. It's not unusual
awesome.
For people to spend $20 million on a remodel in San Francisco. And when you say remodel, it's not really a remodel. It's a brand new house. So you're stripping the majority of it down and rebuilding almost the whole thing.
Okay. And then 415 is for the commoners
415 remodeling is a
like
design.
me.
Yeah, yeah. So 415 remodeling is a design build company. And, we found that when people want to do a kitchen or a bathroom or a kitchen and a couple of bathrooms, um, there's kind of a gap in the market where you need a design. Every project needs a design. You've got to put it together. You've got to pick your tile and your counters and your flooring and your cabinets. And, homeowners think like, oh, I can design it. And the truth is almost all homeowners need help with design. And then you have to put it on paper and have a set of blueprints, a plan in order to price it. So we found that we weren't really able to sell into that market because it's hard to find a designer to just do a kitchen or just do a bathroom. The economies of scale don't usually pencil out. So we decided to start to hire a designer and bring them into AGC. And at some point I realized that that work is so different than what we do under AGC, it makes sense to create its own company. So Bill Johnson, who is president of 415 and half owner. So we broke off AGC into another company. And that's design.
Got it. And then what do those projects range?
Oh, 25,000 to $500,000, I'd say. They do dry rot
Got it.
and different types of things. But yeah, the range is on the smaller side. They've done up.
I think that's really. I think that's really smart what you're saying. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying they've done up to $1 million on single project.
Got it. A lot of times clients call me when they're getting ready to do things or when they're in the middle of things, and they're always really perplexed why the contract, suddenly they're realizing that the contractor is not picking, like I hired a contractor, and now they're telling me to go pick my tile, and doesn't he do that? And it's like, no, they don't. So there definitely seems to be some lack of education, lack of consumer awareness around, what is the process, who does what, and so I like that you guys are bringing that in-house, because I think that people just want it to be easy, right? And if they can have less people that are doing more of the project, I think that is preferable.
Yeah, and when you're doing a small project, you don't really need a big design team. It's kind of nice because our designer, she stays with the project and she actually project manages it. So she's working directly with the homeowner, working with the guys in the field and making sure that the guys are building what she has drawn and talked about with clients. So on a small project, design build is absolutely the way to go. If it's, $500,000 plus, there's an argument either way. It really depends on the house and the homeowners and what they're looking for. But for that type of stuff, bar none, design build's the way to go.
It's actually pretty rare, though. I think there's only a few companies in San Francisco that even do it. Isn't that right?
That is true. Most contractors don't want anything to do with design. It's a field that we're not very good at usually. We're good at putting it together, but when it comes to picking color and tile and all of those things, it's, most contractors, they just want to build. AGC, we don't do any design. And I don't want to get into the design world on our projects. I want to make it look like the picture. I just want to build what's on the set of plans. And so with the design build, small projects, it's the best way to move forward. And there aren't a lot of guys doing it.
So without design build, then what's the order? Because I need an architect, I need a designer, I need a builder, and then I might even need a project manager if I don't want that to be me. So who do I call first?
On a big project, you're right. You need architect, engineer, designer, sound engineer, and then if you want a construction manager, a CM, a project manager. In that case, I always say call the general contractor first because I like to be.
Of course you do.
When I put the team together, it generally runs really smoothly. If there's an architect that's difficult to work with, I can't control that process. But if I know that we're bringing in an architect that I get along with and that really draws great plans and is a partner that works well together, then the project usually goes a lot better. So I always say call me first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good, no matter who you call first, that you probably rely on the person who you choose to like help put the team together. Because to your point,
Yeah.
if those people are not trusting each other, then it's just going to be like a finger pointing game through the whole thing, and the client's going to end up being the referee for like people blaming other people.
Yeah, and it's no fun when you get into the finger pointing thing. And I'm sure that when you talk to a project manager or an architect, they're going to say call them first too. So I think we all feel that the same way. Whoever gets to put the team together is going to put together a team of people that they work well with.
Right. So real quickly, rewinding back to the price thing, one of the things that I've heard, I don't know if you're hearing this out there, but I'm hearing that a lot of the developers are actually pulling out of the city right now, waiting for, which may be happening because the real estate market is definitely just shifted dramatically in January and is really heating up. But what I was hearing is that, for the higher end, not probably by your standards, but for the higher end by real estate standards, the developments that are coming out in the, $10 million range, stuff like that. Those developers are basically saying like, until it hits $2,000 a square foot on the resale, they can't keep up with the build cost. It just isn't making sense.
Yeah, I think that's true. When you buy a piece of property and it takes 2 years to get a permit and 2 years to build it, you're holding it for 4 years. There's a lot of risk. I don't do development like that because I don't like that risk, and it's hard to build something you're proud of and make a profit. There's very few people that can do both. So there's always a trade-off. But it doesn't seem like there's as many developers out there building right now because the upfront costs and then the timeline around getting permits and putting it together. It's a tough thing to do.
And what's going on with the permits? I'm hearing like just even getting a window permit, like over the counter permit right now is months. Is that true?
No, just for something simple like a window, or if you're replacing in kind, which means you're rebuilding a bathroom or kitchen exactly how it was, you can get that in a matter of days. If you're moving a kitchen or making major changes to any of the project, then you need to submit plans, and that can take 4 months to get an appointment right now. There are architects and different people that have tricks and already have appointments set up that you can grab, and architects are trading appointments with each other. So there's a lot of tricks that people are using to expedite that process. But right now we're seeing a permit that would take 1 hour to get or 1 day, let's say, at the building department, is 4 months just to get an appointment now. So it's certainly impacting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if someone's planning on, going up in Noe Valley on their home there, then they have to wait 4 months for the appointment. And then it's approximately 2 years to get through the neighborhood review, correct? Is that still true?
Well, I mean, it could happen in 9 months. That's the fastest it can happen. I've never seen that, but architects still say it's possible. It doesn't have to take 2 years, but
They also,
what's that?
I was going to say they probably also still say it's possible to build for 500 a foot.
That's true, and that is not possible anymore. But it tends to take 1.5 to 2 years, and if there's a neighbor who really wants to contest it, you have no idea how long it can take at that point.
Got it. Okay, so we were talking about who to hire when. So we call Aaron first, and then he's going to put together the team on a high-end project. On like an everyday project, we still call Aaron first. And then we need less of a team. But like, what are the things like, I have people who say like, can I live in my house? Like, what are the things that you think people should know before they start a project or you wish they wish they would have known, when they get to the end?
Yeah, so it always takes longer and costs more. I think everybody sort of knows that, but they don't want to believe it. The
How
people
much longer and how much more?
twice on both of them. So, like average bathroom remodel for us is around $65,000 for a regular bathroom. If you want a steam shower and a big master, it can go to 100 plus. And people, they're like 65,000. I thought a bathroom was like 30,000. And a lot of real estate agents, when they're selling a house, not you, but others will say, oh yeah, you can rebuild that for 30,000, no problem. And there might be guys out there that can do it, but you're getting the guy in his truck that doesn't have workers' comp and liability insurance, and puts it in with really inexpensive materials, and the quality leaves a lot to be desired. So that's something that's surprising. A kitchen remodel is usually 100 plus to do, a nice kitchen remodel. And that's with design, build, and the whole 9 yards. And a bathroom remodel can take 2.5 to 3 months. And that always surprises people. They're like, it's only 6 by 6 square feet. But there's 9 inspections when we're doing a bathroom remodel. And DBI slows that down, and everything happens in sequence. So, framing, sheetrock, tile, finishes. So the kitchen is usually about 4 months, 3 to 4 months. And the other thing people are surprised by is how long it takes to get into contract and ready to work. But like, oh, can't we just pick our finishes and get started in a couple of weeks? And it generally takes 4 to 6 weeks to really put all that together. And the more documentation you do up front, the more clear the contract's going to be. And when you're tying a set of plans, which we do, we like to draw out the plans and then tie the contract to the plans, so everybody's really clear on what they're buying. And it's far too often in this industry, somebody's like, oh, we'll do your kitchen for $65,000, but like, what kind of cabinets are you getting? What kind of faucets? What kind of sink? What kind of pulls and handles? And what's included and what's not included? And if the contract and the scope of work isn't very well detailed, then it's hard to understand what you're paying for. And that's where change orders and that kind of thing happens. So people are always worried about change orders. So
when you say it's going to be double, is that double even when you're working with a contractor that had detailed out, like, that you're getting Studio Becker cabinets? And
well, I say double because people always expect a kitchen to be $50,000, but they're not thinking that, oh yeah, when I add up all the appliances alone can be $35,000 if you're going with high-end appliances. And, in a lot of these homes, you don't want to put in Kenmore appliances. You want to put in Miele or Sub-Zero or Wolf type products. So you never want to be in a situation where the contract price doubles if the scope of work doesn't double. So we're very diligent about really getting the scope of work detailed and the details written out and all of the products selected and firmed up before we go into contract. That way, when we're building, the homeowner's clear on what they're actually getting and what's included and what's not included. And then there's no surprises when it comes to change orders. If we open the walls and the framing is bad, sure, there will be change orders. But in a perfect world, we can detail it out close enough to what we're doing and minimize the amount of changes there are.
Yeah, having gone through a few projects myself, I think changes come from two different places. Like, one is going to be, your fault, right? The contractor didn't put in the right allowances, even though, I said, I want this kind of style. They threw in a cheap garage door, which didn't go with that style, right? So then it's like, oh,
Right.
that's surprising. That's like another $15,000. And then the other one is like from the client, right? Which has happened to me every time. And I think happens to everybody. Like once you get that contractor in your house, you
Yeah.
suddenly start having these new ideas, right? You're like, now that they're there, like some nano doors here would just be great, and your house is torn up. And so then there's that change order where it's like, okay, now there's this whole structural thing. And now we're talking about another $100,000 to give you that like bigger view and like open up that wall more.
Very common. It's the while you're at it and the you might as wells, right? Well, we might as well.
Right.
We already have the wall open, and it's true. There's economies of scale. If we're already there and there's somebody that's on site managing the project, it's not that much more to just throw stuff in here and there. If it doesn't increase the duration of the project, then there's economies of scale. So that's very typical.
Right.
The earlier you define the scope of work and agree to pricing, the better off the homeowner is. Changes during construction are more expensive than it would have been before. And there's several reasons for that. One, you're adding new work that's out of sequence. So had we had that scope of work in earlier, we would have sequenced it into all of the work, and the duration of the project would be shorter. So you generally throw off the sequence and you add duration to the project, which is, duration is dollars. The other thing is subcontractors, if they're competing for the work and the scope of work is in as they're doing their estimates, they're going to keep their pencil sharp on that scope of work. Once they're in the house, no matter how honest that subcontractor is, they're in business to make a profit, and they won't need to sharpen their pencil as much because they're already there. You're not going to replace the electrician or bring in a new electrician to add 4 plugs. But at that point, if the electrician, hasn't really been efficient or underbid it to begin with, they're going to make it up on the backside. So even the most honest subs and GCs, they use that as an opportunity to maybe make up for lost work. And it's really inefficient to do change orders. So a lot of people really think like, wow, you guys are overcharging us for a change order, where I've actually lost money on it. And it's a dynamic that nobody really likes. So try to figure out as much work early and get it into the original estimate, and it'll be certainly less expensive than doing it halfway through the project.
Mm-hmm. Or I think one thing too is like, sometimes people, they maybe want to do a kitchen remodel, but down the road, they might want to do an extension, and actually like going ahead and going through the whole design process with the architect to like see it out, even if it's going to be later. So that way, if there's things that you can do when you're doing that kitchen remodel to maybe like reframe the wall to add some structural that otherwise it's going to be like, oh, we're going to tear out the kitchen in order to do this.
That's a really good point. If you have ideas about building out other stuff later, designing the whole thing early and then phasing it does make sense.
So I know you're at the high end of the range in price and services, of course, and there's a big range in your field. So what is we talked about bids and budgets and actually knowing what you're getting and getting more accuracy there. What else can clients be prepared to deal with if they have the guy in the truck without a license versus your team?
So if we're talking, a lot of times the only way we can talk about pricing is price per square foot, which works for larger remodels, but not for like bathrooms and kitchens. You never think about a kitchen per square foot. But if we're thinking about, there's a developer in the city, I don't want to name their name, but when they're building for themselves, they're around $450 to $500 a square foot at their cost. And they buy and develop homes and put them on the market. Nobody has workers' comp, very, light on design, light on quality. that's kind of the bare minimum with the least expensive subs. So they're in that 450 to 500 range. A really good contractor, somebody that's at the top of the playing field, we like to say we're around 1,000 a square foot. So we can get down below that depending on the design. And if that's a client's goal, we can work with them maybe down to about 850-ish. And then, we've done projects at 2,000 a square foot and even 5,000 a square foot. So really, when you're getting into that uber high end, prices can kind of get way up there. I have a third company that we didn't touch on yet called Heirloom Construction, and been in business about 6 months. And the reason I created that company is there was a guy named Zach Ayer who I really liked. I wanted to work with, and I knew he wanted to be a contractor. And there's that market that AGC doesn't really service well, and it's in that like $750 a square foot market where somebody has a home, they want to do a large-ish remodel, but they're not looking for uber high-end finishes, and price is definitely a concern. So we started this company, and we're really trying to keep our overhead down. And sorry about that. With Zach being in the field 100%, he can be really efficient. When an owner's in the field and they're watching over everything, there's an efficiency to be gained. So that's the reason I started the company, and it's working out really well. Zach is doing a great job.
And are they doing design build as well?
Nope, not design build. So 415 is design build. Heirloom is sort of that, middle ground price point, and AGC is the higher end. Yeah.
So Heirloom is in between the two that you had before. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's not design build.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not low end.
Got it.
And really the goal is to produce quality and process at the level AGC does. It's just, bringing it into a lower rate. And it's because Zach, as an owner, is in the field. And, the size of the company, Heirloom's a small company, so they're able to be really efficient.
Yeah, when I was doing my remodel, somebody told me my contractor should swing a hammer. So that's like, cause based on like the price and stuff that we wanted to spend, it's like, okay, that's going to have the least amount of overhead that it's not a CEO running a company. Like, he's the guy and he cares about the craftsmanship. Is that kind of what you're saying is happening here?
He's swinging a hammer a little bit. So the problem with the contractor swinging the hammer is if they're doing one job, it works great. If they have two jobs, it kind of falls apart, because then you need to have somebody else on that job while you're gone. And if that person isn't a site super or a lead, things don't go well. So the GC that does swing the hammer and truly does one job from start to finish at a time definitely can bring in costs at a lower rate. And generally those general contractors, they're not making much money. They may have bought a house 40 years ago, and they have low overhead, and the family's already moved on, and the kids are out of the house and in school. So it's rarely the younger guys, it's the older guys that have the ability to do that. But you want to be careful, because if they have three jobs and nothing happens without them being there, then you have the typical, GC, like, how come you weren't here today? Well, I was on my other job. And, if he's not there, then nothing happens on the project. So it's a balancing act.
Got it. So what else should I be asking you that I'm not asking you? What comes up for you?
The advice I give to people that's rarely listened to is take your time. Don't rush into it. And, with a lot of your clients, they buy a house, they're really excited. They're like, maybe their first house, they want to do all of this work before they move in. They're paying rent somewhere, and now they have a mortgage, and they're like, okay, our new mortgage is $6,000, our rent's $3,800. We're motivated to get this done as fast as possible. And it forces them into making choices that they wouldn't have made had they taken the time to do it. And a lot of that is design. Once you make a design decision and it goes into place, that's it. Your counters are going to be the green marble that you thought you loved, but it might not match the rest of the finishes. So really stopping, taking a minute to really think about your design. Sometimes it's good to do your design and then not look at it for 2 weeks and come back and look at it and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're really going to be happy with it. So that's the best advice I have. Like, move into your house, think about what you're going to do, hire the team that's really going to work with you, that's not pushing you to start immediately, and get the whole design in place, get it priced out. Try not to have a lot of allowances. And so an allowance is, if we don't know what something's going to cost, we just guess and we'll say, okay, $5,000 allowance for this. And if it ends up being 10,000, then you sign a change order for 5,000. If it comes in less, then you give money back. So the more allowances that are figured out in advance and turned into real costs, the better off the homeowner is going to be. And the more clarity you're going to have around what the total price is when you're done. So if you go in and start and you're rushing to get it done, there's a lot more risk in terms of what you may spend by the end of the project. And typically the design suffers for that. And then about living in the house, you can live in a house during a remodel. Most of 415 remodeling clients live in the home, so they're really accustomed to working with people in their home. Sometimes we'll set up a kitchen for them in the garage or help them figure that out. It's no fun. It's loud. You have a lot of people coming and going. It's possible. On larger remodels, we absolutely don't allow clients to live in the house during a big remodel. It just doesn't make any sense. And then it just can't happen. But with small stuff, you can. Most people, after it's over, say, wow, I wish I moved out. Especially now that we're all working from home, it's a whole different dynamic. So if there's a place to go, great, or rent a house for a couple of months, at least through the majority of it, move out, move your stuff. It's more expensive when the client's at home because we have to work around them. So, when I'm quoting prices, we're assuming people are going to be at home. When there's only one bathroom in the unit, it gets a little dicey. People use the gym and, we'll leave the toilet in place during the evening hours and take it out when we have to. And they shower at the gym. So it's, those are people that, really should have moved out. But every situation's different. It depends where the work is going to be. If it's near the front door, it's a lot easier, or near a garage, it's easier. If it's upstairs and at the end of the house, past all the bedrooms, makes it a little more challenging.
Yeah. One takeaway that I would have from this conversation is that, based on my work, is that, if you're saying that construction is, between $750 and $1,000, realistically, if someone is paying, the average price per square foot in Noe Valley right now is $1,300 a square foot. So if you're going to buy a house and you want to do a down to the studs remodel and it's $1,000 a square foot, then please plan on keeping it for a while, because catching up to that $2,300 a square foot to make money or break even is probably not possible. So at least not for the short term.
Yeah.
So, plan on staying there and building the house that you love and holding on to it. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there where people say like, oh, I'll get a better deal by buying a fixer. And the reality is right now that you're actually getting a much better deal by buying something that was built even 3 years ago, because it was cheaper to build 3 years ago than it is today.
That is true. So it's definitely a scenario where if you want a really nice newish house, if you can find something that somebody built 2-3 years ago, not a developer, but a homeowner, that's where the deals are. And you can tell by the finishes. Most of our clients' ROI is not that important at the onset, because they want to build what they want and they know they're going to be there a long time. So the ROI on that is really important. It's definitely if you think, oh, we'll buy a house and then we'll add a third floor, adding a third floor to a house is extremely expensive. ROI usually doesn't make sense. You've got to move out. The permit takes 2 or 3 years, or a year to 2, could be 3, depending on your neighbor's situation. So it's like, I try to talk people out of adding a third floor under an existing 2-floor house, because not only are you adding a third floor, but you're probably remodeling the rest of the house at the same time. Right? You've got that's sort of the time to do it. So definite misconception about what makes sense to do in terms of remodel. You have to be committed and know you're going to be here a long time for that to make sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today, Aaron. I'll just say that we're going to send this out via email. I'll include all your contact information. So if anybody has any questions about remodel, it sounds like there's no projects that Aaron can't tackle.